I want to be that mentor, that person that I wished I had growing up. There's not enough representation. I was looking at a fat plumber as a hero, Super Mario, because I mean that's the person that looked like it's like there was not many people that look like us, and now it's like we have them in tech. Look, we're Francisco Jimenez, we have Jose, we have Richard Montañez. They're doing it, and they don't have to do it in sports. They're doing it in tech. Compare ourselves to them, and especially with us, with our upbringing. Let's have a conversation just like we are, and I mean it's have fun. Like for me, I think, and this is what I learn. I want to learn. Like I've been following. I mean your daughter too, because it's like what she's doing, and she's gonna be number one in the world. I mean it's like, oh yeah, for sure. I know this for sure. I see her consistency, but I want to be part of your guys' vision. I think that this is one of the best things that has happened to me, like just be surrounded with even people. I mean, it's like you've seen some of our posts, we get 2 likes. I've seen the success stories, and it's like that's what happens at the beginning. And then at the end, I mean, it's like, and I'm excited for this, Gene, because I'm telling you, mark my words, we will see our dreams come to pass. We will.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. Those dreams involve helping other people be able to stand on your shoulders.
Amen. Yeah, that's my thing. Newton said that, I got far by standing on the shoulder of giants. Yes, sir.
Oh my goodness. Now you quote Newton on me, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, you said it.
Exactly, exactly. That's really good. So, I'm gonna start with you taking us back because you're like a strong, imposing looking guy now, Lawrence. But there was a time when you were like a little skinny kid in East Santa
San
Fe.
Jose. That's
So, like,
affirmative, man.
yeah,
Hey,
take
you know
us back
what?
to
I
that part.
wish I got pictures where I felt that I was the biggest, baddest thug, right? And then I have one when I go my first day at school at university, and it's this shy and timid. I'm gonna go ahead and send you these pictures. You're gonna get a kick out of it, but it's just to show, like, you're right. That right now that you said skinny, scrawny, yes, and scared and timid, that was me. Yes.
Well, you know what? I can take those pictures too, and we can create like a montage as we're doing
Let's
like,
do that. I'm okay with it. I'm shared experiences. Nietzsche says that a life worth living, it's you doing something like this and being scared, the most daring, go out going after something big. If people could actually benefit just like me, I see you doing sales and I get motivated. I follow what you see. It's there was one day I forgot to tell you I was gonna comment on something, but you posted something that's what I needed to hear for that day, just to get me through that day. It reminded me to reset and just go about my business. And it's like people don't see that, man. People don't see that. And it's like sometimes it's all you need is for you to get that one positive thing that puts you back in order. That's what I want to do. And I'm excited, man. So if my story could help even one person, it would be considered a life well lived.
that's a great attitude. And what I like about that, Lawrence, is all you got to do is focus on one person, and the rest takes care of itself. When people start going out and they're like, I want to go viral and stuff, that's the wrong thing. If you go viral, that's good, but don't try to do it with that purpose because then it's more about you.
Yeah. And for us, it's not about us. For me, the only reason is that and this is part of my mission statement, Gene, is I want to be that mentor, that person that I wished I had growing up. There's not enough representation. I was looking at a fat plumber as a hero, Super Mario, because I mean that's the person that looked like it's like there was not many people that look like us, and now it's like we have them in tech. Look, we're Francisco Jimenez, we have Jose, we have, I mean, Richard Montañez. And these are people that it's like, okay, they're doing it. And they don't have to do it in sports. They're doing it in tech. For us, it's like, it's easier for us to compare ourselves to them. And especially with us, with our upbringing. So let's do it. I mean, I prayed a little bit before coming. So I know it's going to be God and the Spirit just flowing through us, brother.
All right, my man. And I want to hit you with this because I want to know about that little kid who was declared at-risk youth and was having friends around him being taken by social services,
Yeah.
having kids that were dying, and
Yes,
then
sir.
having to pray for food to eat. Like, what was that like, man?
That was hard. Those were the hardest things. Those times were actually some of the hardest and darkest, I would say. For those that do know what East San Jose in California, a lot of the low riders, so this was in the early 90s to mid 90s. And there was a lot of stuff. This was a spot, a block, a project of apartments, rundown apartments. I mean, I talk about it in some of the posts where, man, it's cockroach infested, rat infested, drug prostitution that people would go to at night before going cruising. They would come in and they would just pick up and just score on some drugs, right? And they would go and just get back into Story and King, which was at the time one of the biggest high trafficked areas, right? And growing up then, we saw everything. I mean, it's at an early age. There was a kid that was thrown out. I think a young teenage girl was pregnant. Her parents didn't know, and the baby, I mean, there was like in the garbage, always running. I remember when the cops came, the older thugs in the area, or cholos, whatever you want to call them, they would tell us, make sure that when the cops come, you guys run up to them and ask them for stickers, stall them for a little bit so we could get rid of the drugs, hide the guns, the knives, and everything, right? So growing up around that type of mentality, that's what was happening. And alongside with that, there was 4 or 5 families in a 2, 3 bedroom apartment, and we saw a lot of stuff. There was kids that their parents were hooked on drugs, and we would see people. I mean, you would see them one day playing around, and then the next day, I mean, child services would come and just take them. So saw that a lot. They would bring them in. They would try to right the wrongs, but we saw a lot of that. We saw a lot of single parenting. In my case, that was the case. I mean, we just had my mom, who came at a young age, leaving 7 kids behind, coming in and having 2 jobs and having me then. So I mean, if you think about it, all the statistics, the numbers, they were there, almost destined to fail.
It was good and bad, but I loved what you did. You said you quit school so you could help get food on the table for the family.
Nah, that's affirmative. So I would help my mom. So she had 2 jobs. She was working at a bar at nighttime, and she was working at Casa Vicky. I mean, my name Lawrence actually came from my madrina, the owner of the restaurant Casa Vicky. That's the first job my mom had coming here to the States. My mom, devastated for leaving her kids behind. And then it's a friend there at the restaurant was like, hey, you should make your boss your comadre. She's older in age. She was my first godmother, right? I mean, through baptism. My mom was like, well, you picked the name. And my madrina straight said it was like his name's gonna be Lawrence, referencing Lawrence of Arabia. So that's how my name, because my mom doesn't speak a word in English, and they're like, "How did you get your name Lawrence?" You know. So, but you know what? It's part of the story. So that happens. My mom had 2 jobs growing up. Then my stepdad came into the story. My youngest sister, through a collateral damage, he's deported a few years later in a drug bust. I mean, in the apartment complex where I lived in Pogoe, he's taken back to Mexico. So my mom is back to fending herself, and I see how she's working, and I start helping her out wrapping tamales at a family friend's business, burrito factory, and I start there. So I'm 10, 12, wrapping tamales, and then I end up just working on the afternoons there. Right off of middle school, would go over there and just work 5 hours every day. It started affecting me, and just had to drop out at a young age.
I was kind of proud when you did that in a way, though, because I know how your story ended. But I was like, this guy was stepping up to the plate.
Yeah, imagine having to grow quick. I'm talking about 15, 16 years old. At the time, it was kind of cool because, I mean, I was that kid that would go ahead and buy Jack in the Box for the rest of the kid, for the rest of the gang, right? And I had kicks, and I would be like, yeah, let's go get shirts. So we would go to the mall. We all had the shirts, the jackets, and I mean, so that was fun. But then at the time, I mean, I was also missing out on a whole bunch of other stuff. But it was those moments that I feel had pretty much, I mean, instilled in me. Because my mom, I mean, she had a first grade education, but there was a lot of values and morals. I mean, it's hard work, being humble, being respectful, that I think that she taught me, and just hard work and never giving up. It was her sacrifice. So that's one of the things that keeps me motivated. I can't give up. This woman gave it all for us to have a better life, and I'm going to make the most of it.
That is amazing. And the next trajectory is we get to this point where you get help from the officers and their project that they're doing, and then you start getting a little bit of assistance, but then you decide to go get your equivalent degree, high school, which we call GED in the United States, but you get that. And now tell me where we are now with that.
No, so Project Crackdown, it offered me a different way of looking at life, a different perspective. It was a young officer that volunteers their time. And I mean, they took us to our first baseball games, soccer games, hockey games. They gave us bikes. But at the end of the day, we would go back to these homes, people shooting up in the hallways, people, I mean, gunshots on a weekly basis, people dying. So, I mean, it's just to have both sides. And at the age of 17, having a close friend that's get killed during a drive-by shooting that I was just there minutes before, that was life-changing for me. That I was like, you know what? I knew I had contrast. So I was like, okay, there's a good way and there's a bad way. One of the same officers who was there as a mentor, as a coach at a young age, I saw him later in life, 10, 12 years later, but under different circumstances. I mean, he was now investigating the homicide of one of my best friends, someone who he actually coached and mentored. He pulled me aside and was like, "Hey man, I mean, if you don't get your stuff together, I mean, this is what's gonna happen to you." And I believe that that was a turning point for me. I knew that there was life better than this.
Mm. Now, what ages are we at now at that point where you have that rendezvous with him?
17, 18, because at this time I was addicted to drugs and some other stuff. And by this time, I mean, you got to remember, I was already in trouble at school. They gave me an ultimatum. So they gave me a program to go into a halfway house, a group home ministry, right? So I was like, you know what? I'll take that. It was a 9-month program that I did. And I put myself through it because I knew I wanted to go ahead and just get right. So I ended up doing that, detox and everything. And I think that was another opportunity for me to just completely change my life. I knew that there was a problem. I wanted to get away. And being there in the neighborhood, I wasn't going to do it. So that was my first instance where I separated myself from the source of my problems and was working on myself. I got to experience people from different walks of life there too. People that were going from group home to group home, foster care to foster care, and seeing teens. So that's where this love to help people comes from. So from someone helping me, I want to be able to do the same for others.
Yeah, and I want to commend you on that too, because in life, even involving ourselves too, sometimes we see we need to change, or other people see they need to change, but all they do is just see it, Lawrence. They don't do anything, or we don't do anything about it. So like you deserve to be commended. I mean, just that self-awareness to say, hey, I got to take this path and take care of this, and separate myself from these bad influences.
Self-reflection, Gene. That's where it starts. Because I mean, and being honest, having these honest conversations with yourself. And a lot of people talk about, hey, be honest with me, but being honest is hurtful sometimes. Being able to tell somebody you need to stop because you're killing yourself. We have to be stern. We don't have to be disrespectful, but we have to be stern in how we approach people, and how we coach people. Playing sports, it's the coach wasn't going to tell me how great I was doing. He would tell me what I needed to work on, and that's exactly what I want to do. I mean, I want to be able to tell people, I mean, of course, in the best respectful way, but I mean, it's telling them that it is possible to get themselves out of whatever hole they find themselves in.
All these points you're making are just evidence of a great wisdom, Lawrence. I give you a lot of credit, man. You're like older than your years.
Yeah, I'm an old soul. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And so now we moving forward, and this guy now gets a college degree and a master's degree. I mean,
Wow.
what in the world? It's like going from like high school to the pros. You just like leapfrogged into like that.
That's exactly what happens. By this time, I meet my now wife, right? And I mean, it's 2009 now. And a few years forward after sobriety, I mean, I come back and I'm telling people how they should do the same. I know I have the potential, but they're asking for a high school diploma and I don't have one. I go out there, I get on one of these afternoon classes, I get my GED. I knew that that was the equalizer. And this is where I learned a love for education. I entered into the tech companies and into the tech world as a entry level security guard. I've always asked God, put me wherever you need me, and I'll take care of the rest. So there I was in front of a Fortune 500 company as an entry level security guard, and I was going to take care of the rest. That's where it all started. I got my GED. I saw that people around me, I asked what they had, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and take on this on this journey, this educational journey, and take a shot at it.
I'm thinking now about your mom. Like she's seeing this incredible transformation. What's she saying at this time? It'd be so nice to know.
She's scared, Jane. She's scared because, I mean, you got to remember, and a lot of people don't understand that she was forced into marriage at the age of 13. She had my oldest sister at 14. A lot of domestic violence. She was abandoned by her first husband, left her with 7 kids. Coming back, you got to remember, it's hard to be optimistic. She kind of told me, like, play it safe. Don't do this. I mean, you have just get a simple job and get a steady job. And that's the mindset. But I had to separate myself from that. She was proud that I was making all these moves, but she was also scared for me. She's so proud now. But I mean, while I was going through it, you got to remember, I mean, it's my wife was pregnant, and here I was working in a grave shift at night, getting off at work at 6, having to sleep in the car for half an hour, and then start class at 8, go home at 10, sleep for a couple hours, and then babysit, and then start it all over. So a lot of people, they think it's luck, they consider it luck, but it's pure persistence, it's dedication, it's committing to the goal. It's nothing comes easy.
Man, the dedication right there, I can tell you right there, having done some overnight work in my life, it's like that thing you say of just sleeping for a half hour and then getting up, that is
Yes.
Herculean right there.
Yes, it is. I mean, and people don't see that. Like now, they see the benefits, the fruit of the labor, but it's like people are scared to put in the work. There was days that I didn't have money for the babysitter that I would have to tell the teacher and the professors. I was fortunate enough that they were okay with me bringing the baby in a couple times. I wanted it. That's how bad I wanted it, to level up and be successful.
Right. That desire, that's where you're going to shine, and you are shining already to people who look up to you like me. Lawrence is like,
Thank you, Gene.
you do whatever it takes. That is the differentiator because it's so easy to say, man, I'm tired. I'm just going to sleep.
Yeah. There was a lot of those moments, we get off of work and you don't want to edit videos for another 4 or 5 hours, or you do not want to go ahead and read a book that might be life changing. People would rather just sit around watching, I mean, movies, and all that's good if that's what you want out of life. You get out of this world what you put in.
Right, right. And you know that what you said too, many people misunderstand that stern talk. You can't tell somebody who's like going down the drain, "Oh, you're all right. You're doing good. Just hang in there." You can't if you really care about them.
That's correct. That's correct. I mean, I had a conversation. I wrote about it on a post that got great, I mean, amount of traction. I've had messages on the side with like, "Damn, wow." I mean, it's true because a lot of people, they talk about coaching and they immediately go to a negative thing. But for those that played sports, for those that know, I mean, that they need to hear the truth, and that's when change really happens. It's either when something crazy happens, someone leaves you, someone dies, that the body's more receptive to change. And when you have someone challenge you, it's definitely your body, your psyche telling you, hey, you know what? You might want to pay attention. For me, I mean, it's being stern, being straightforward.
Exactly. I know you're making me think too. And I know one thing that always worries me about people that are stuck in a rut is a lot of times they think that everything that they're going through right there that maybe seems kind of cool, they think it's going to stay cool. But it's like life will change on you, man. COVID will come out of nowhere. And it's like you could have been leveling up when you were just like binging on Netflix.
Yeah. No, no, no. And it's true. I mean, I'll tell you, I know we talked about this offline. Look what happened to me during the COVID. I got and reached upwards of 300 pounds, high cholesterol, diabetic, high blood pressure, digestive issues. So when you feel, I mean, the stress, that brings about interfered with my performance at work, with my life outside of work, my social thing. It all just stemmed from one action, from one thing of binge eating and unhealthy habits. Once I addressed that, my anxiety, my depression, I feel a lot better. My blood got regulated and I'm doing a lot better. So it's just focusing on just one thing and just getting disciplined about it. I was able to come down to a healthy 200 pounds. I was 198 this morning, so I want to keep it, under 200 for this year. That's my goal.
Oh, you were 198 until you had your afternoon lunch. Then you were
Yeah,
200.
oh yeah, yeah, no, no, no. So that's after. I'd include that. So the 200 is like I do the weigh-in in the morning, so that's the truth weight right there.
That is another sign of like your progress because like the context of that, everyone just heard you say went from 300 down to 198. You rid yourself of a lot of problems and you were able to manage your emotions and stuff like that. But like, what time frame are we talking about? Because people don't know. I know.
So I started having digestive problems and issues post COVID, right? I almost certain that this happened due to the staying at home, eating at 2, 3 in the morning, sleeping, not exercising. So that a little over a year and a half that I started feeling different. My energy, foggy eyesight. I would obsessively look on Mayo Clinic, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to go to the doctor. There's this certain machismo, or I'll just go. But then it started like I would wake up just tired, and I was like, but I haven't done nothing. There was a whole bunch of telltale signs of the things that were going bad. And it wasn't until I told my wife that I was like, you know what, babe, I got to get checked out. Got CAT scans, did everything. By this time, I had already made peace with the worst case scenario, which was death, right? It took a whole year. Quit drinking, better habits. I got with a nutritionist. I started working with a coach. I started changing my mindset. That's the source. There's a quote by Wayne Dyer that says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. The doctor says, well, your metabolism is that of a 75-year-old. And when they tell you that, you're looking at 5 to 10 years. It's right. That's the statistics. That scared me straight. I have 6 kids and a grandkid now. So I really, really got to be serious about my health. I really have to go ahead and take care of myself because guess what? No one's coming and doing it for you.
Man, you already need to be a motivational speaker.
No, it's that I can start by myself.
You you just really took care of that. And so like over it was like a year that you were able to shed like 100 pounds, man.
That's around right. Then they took around the bad pieces, some ulcers that I had, some gut infections. They did some work there, and then they put me on a strict diet. Low caloric. More active. That has helped immensely. Fast foods, I try to minimize those, and if I do, I pick and choose smaller fries. I stay away from sodas. No drinking. Meditate regularly. That's my biggest things.
Wow, that is incredible. And I mean that I'm so proud of you, man. 'Cause you basically lost the equivalent of a small person.
Yes, yes, That's and being able to do it, but again, it wasn't easy. It's like Thanksgiving, New Year's, everybody else is indulging. Me, I just have a portion, so I'm able to eat as much, but it's just in slow quantities. But you know what, though, I think that's whenever those thoughts come in, I think of it, the health benefits. Like now, I'm able to run more. Most of the things, like I told you, they leveled out. I feel better, and feeling better, I'm able to just excel. Give out better things. And that's the beauty of things. I think that if we get our mental state, our physical and our spiritual, you're unstoppable.
And people really need to know that, man, because it's like I love people. I like being around people, but people who have too much drama, I'm like, you stay over there.
Energy vampires, Gene, that's a real thing. No, it's true. The people that come in and they always have something negative to anything. Like for me, believe it or not, I'm an introvert. At the end of the day, I'm an empath. If I'm surrounded by people that are just draining me, I need 2, 3 days just to recharge. I would rather stay at home, watch a good documentary, listen to some podcasts. VanRocha for all the people out there. It's like That's how I spend my afternoons.
Yeah, man, that's good stuff. That's really good. Young people are going to be talking about you a lot. And I'm not young and I'm talking about you, especially those young people who are like at a crossroads now. What do you want them to know? They're looking at two different paths they could go, and one is one that will build them up and one will tear them down. What do you want them to see in you?
I'll tell you exactly what I want. So there's millions of dollars going into the music industry, big pharma, social media, and all what they're selling it's this get rich. I mean, it's fast, all misleading, misguiding these folks. So, what I want for our youth is I want them to see in me this shared experience that if someone from Eastside San Jose that came from the projects, from a single mother with first grade education, someone that dropped out, someone who was hooked on drugs, someone who was bullied, that suffered from mental illness could do it and be successful, whether it's academically, whether it's physically coming from a bad place, whether it's making it into the corporate world and high tech. Like success for me, it's not a monetary thing. It's being able to be happy with yourself with what you have now. What I teach my daughters now is to be able to get themselves out of whatever trouble they find themselves in the right way. And that's what I want for the youth. My mission statement would be to be that mentor that I wish I had growing up, to look at the positive rather than the negative.
That's awesome. Something I wanted to circle back to, which I think is really needs a good mention. A person that we have in common who has really motivated both of us is Martha Nino. You told me a fact that hit me right in the middle of my face, where you said you reached out to like a bunch of different people looking for like mentorship and encouragement.
Yes, I had just gone through one of the hardest times of my life. My wife, she faced deportation, so she was stuck in Mexico for a year. We overcame those challenges. We solved it. My wife is now back here, but at the time, the company that I worked for was like, "Hey, we want you to share your journey. We want you to share your story." So I did, but I didn't know what to write about. Here I was making myself vulnerable. Would I be looked at, frowned upon? So I go on the LinkedIn. At the time I had 5, 6 followers, and I reached out to folks that had an audience. There were Latino, Hispanics with a couple thousand followers. And I was like, hey, I'm gonna present. Could he help me? So out of about 15, 20 people that I reached out, some people were like, yeah, get with my assistants. It's gonna be X amount. But then Marta Nino reaches out and says, set something on my calendar. And I had seen her thing of Adobe and her speech, and she shares, and I was like, well, I'm going to do something similar in front of a couple hundred people. She reached out, and that's why she's my tech godmother. She was there opening doors. She made the introduction to you to a lot of the people that are now fundamental in my journey. She made contacts. Me publishing my first written literature was thanks to her, and the introduction to Adriana Rosales, another wonderful person in my journey. So imagine this is the power of networking and being a believer in people. And I want to be that source. I want to be that beacon of light for the youth. And it doesn't matter. You know what, Gene? I've had folks from all walks of life. It's not just the young kids, it's the adults saying, hey, you know what? I appreciate and it feels good to have people like you sharing your story, letting me know that there's still hope for my kids. That to me was the best thing. And that's why I do what I do, the service to the community, a servant leader.
Well, you know what, dude? What's the name of your organization? This thing got to be like a nonprofit.
I'm gonna share that with you soon. I mean, once the minutes, but there is definitely, and now it's just the Marta Nino Foundation. We're working alongside them, taking with Ana Maria as well, going to the schools. There's a lot of stuff that we're doing. I'm going back to continuation school, sharing their story. Now the attention span. Back in the days, remember when they used to say it was 15 minutes, but now it's shrunk down to a minute reel. These people are less focused. The content that they're doing, it's really not the best. How do we compete? How do we support each other? By sharing these stories. That's how you guys can help. It doesn't cost you a dime. On the way home, on the commute, listen to this podcast, get your ideas, share your story, connect people, share this just how you would, I mean, anything else. And I hope that our message reaches the right people, especially now. There's a lot of youth being lost, I mean, to fentanyl, to drugs, to social media. They're losing focus. And I think it's our job to be able to get to these people and tell them that there is hope and that it's worth living.
Man, Lawrence, you just did a slam dunk and brought it home. That's the end.
Yeah. Let's do it, brother.